Okay, ready? Okay, this is the frontal bone, parietal, occipital, temporal, zygomatic, nasal, maxilla. The sutures: coronal suture, sagittal suture, lambdoidal suture, squamosal suture, internasal suture, intermaxillary suture. Temporal lines on the parietal bone, temporal lines, frontosquama, superciliary ridges, glabella, supraorbital foramen, infraorbital foramen, two nasal bones, internasal suture, lacrimal bone with the duct. In the eye orbit, there's three openings. There's an optic foramen, and there's two slits. The upper slit is the superior orbital fissure, and the bottom slit is the inferior orbital fissure. In the nasal cavity, you have your inferior nasal conchae and your middle nasal conchae. Your nasoseptum consists of the top part is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid, bottom is the vomer. Intermaxillary suture, alveolar margin. Zygomaticofacial foramen on the zygomatic bone, squamosal suture, temporal squama, zygomatic arch, zygomatic process of the temporal bone, temporal process of the zygomatic bone, mastoid process, styloid process, external acoustic meatus. What does that mean?
Text message.
Oh, okay. This is your cribriform plate with your olfactory foramina, cristigale, sphenoid bone. Parts of the sphenoid bone include lesser wings, greater wings, anterior clinoid process, posterior clinoid process, optic chiasm, dorsum celli, hypophyseal fossa where the pituitary gland sits, foramen rotundum, carotid groove, petrous portion of the temporal bone, internal.
May I borrow that overhead projector? Are you using it this morning?
I'll use it again. Actually, I'm finished with it now. I'll use it again at 12.
Oh, I'll be
So,
done.
yeah, okay, that's fine.
Thanks.
Internal acoustic meatus, the anterior, middle, and posterior cranial fossa. Yeah, underneath here, incisive foramen, median palatine suture, transverse palatine suture, palatine process of the maxilla, horizontal plate of the palatine, greater and lesser palatine foramen, vomer, pterygoid process. Under the plastic is the mandibular fossa, foramen lacerum, foramen ovale, foramen spinosum, carotid canal, jugular foramen, styloid process, mastoid process, stylomastoid foramen, occipital condyles, condylar fossa, foramen magnum, hypoglossal canal, nuchal lines, external occipital protuberance. On the mandible, we have our body, mental foramen, alveolar margin or process, mandibular angle, mandibular notch, mandibular ramus, coronoid process, condyloid process, mandibular foramen, mylohyoid line. Mylohyoid line. Okay? So,